Welcome to the EOB podcast, where we talk about the weekend box office and the new openings this week. I'm Ben No, and joining me is Sen Duong. So, Sen, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Hey, I'm feeling a little bit under the weather today. So,
Mhm.
yeah, if you see me, hear me coughing, or whatever, strange pauses, then you know what happened. You know,
All right. Yeah.
I'm not as lively as I used to be. So that's what I'm saying.
Well, at least they know that it's not from technical difficulties this time.
Yeah. Well, there's going to be that too. So, a
All right.
combination of factors. But I'm not going to, let our non-existent listener down. And
Uh,
definitely, I'm not going to miss out on Dwayne The Rock Johnson's coming out party.
right. Well, it's like the NBA playoffs, you know. Everyone's dropping like flies, but they're trying to play through it.
Exactly. As the podcast season goes on, there will be injuries. We're going to
Yeah.
play through them. We're
You're
going to
like
perform.
you're like LeBron James. You have a busted knees, busted ankles, but you're still pulling down 18 rebounds and 10 assists and scoring 30 points a game.
Exactly, and the heat is coming on. I'm gonna cramp up and all these things. So, yeah, but
Right.
we're soldiers. We keep going.
All right. Okay, let's
Okay.
do this.
All right, let's bring us in then with number
Okay.
one.
Number one this week is the earthquake disaster epic film starring Dwayne The Rock Johnson. It came in at number one with 53.2 million, which is for The Rock as a solo effort with him as the top bill star is by far his biggest opening yet.
It is, and we're talking about the movie San Andreas, right? Named
Yeah.
after the fault line that's running through California.
Right. I was thinking 40 million. What were you thinking?
Yeah, we were both going 40, and because like before San Andreas, right? His solo efforts are pretty much what his
Well, 35 million was his last highest, and then I think he did that Doom movie that opened at only 15 million.
Yeah, but that was like early Dwayne The Rock Johnson, where he was getting his feet wet.
Well, that's the thing. I think when he diversified into more family fare, he ended up doing better, like the Mysterious Island movies. Is it Mysterious Island?
Race to Which Mountain? You mean?
Yeah. Plus, he also has those.
Yeah, the Journey movies, the
Yeah.
Mysterious Island. Yes.
Yeah, he's done well in those. But for his core fan base, hardcore action fans, he hasn't been doing as well until he started becoming a part of ensemble movies like G.I. Joe and the Fast and Furious franchise. But
let's put things in perspective. When you're not saying doing well, you're talking about relative to the A-listers, right? I mean, his movies still perform. I mean, relative to the budget.
Yeah, his movies still perform, but they eventually do make a profit because they're not as high budgeted as G.I. Joe or the Fast and Furious franchise. Like Doom, I think ended up making about 50 million or something like that, and the budget is just around there. So he's been doing okay. He's been doing solid relative to the budget, but he hasn't had like these 100 million grossers until he did movies that cater towards more of a family audience, which I guess is kind of works for him because, he came from WWE, which is more of a family. I know it's kind of weird, but it's
Right.
family entertainment.
Well, professional wrestling for those who are not into this.
Yeah, right. So this, I think it exceeded most people's expectations.
Right, like the Thursday number came in, and they say, "Oh yeah, it's gonna reach 40 easily," right? And then, then Friday numbers come and say, "Whoa, it's gonna go 50."
Yeah, right.
People were like us included were putting it at 40, but
optimistically,
yeah. And then to do 50 is like Dwayne Johnson is a star right now. You can bank on him. Open solo movies. You don't have to pair him up with Vin Diesel, for example, right?
Yeah. It's one of those, to me, is a classic 2.5 star movie. I didn't think it was good, but I didn't think it was bad. After I saw the movie, I felt like there's no reason for The Rock to be in it, because it makes sense to me now why previous disaster films have rarely included A-listing action stars. Instead, they have more your everyday man, because when you see The Rock, you want to see him punch people out. You don't want to see him just running around and trying to emote. And I feel like the film also kind of showed his limitations when it was time during quiet moments. When it's time to emote, he tried to hit that note, but he doesn't quite get there. And you're like, oh, it's not bad, but it's hard to watch him trying to get to that note, but just couldn't quite hit it.
Right, right, right.
And I feel like I'm like, oh, he's gonna take down some people now, but he doesn't. So it's kind of like I'm like, was he necessary in this film? I mean, they could just get some, your average actor who can hit those notes and look like your everyday man. That whereas when you see The Rock with his bulgy muscles, you expect him to tear down doors and throw people around, but
Yeah, but you know what I think it is that the movie is directed by Brad Payton, the guy who
uh-huh.
directed Journey to the Mysterious Island, which Dwayne the Rock Johnson is also in.
And that did
And
really well, yeah.
yeah, and I guess Brad Payton said, "Hey, Rock, come over. You know, I got this project going on. You want to be in it?" That's kind of like it. I mean, like with the Rock right now, I think he kind of can pick his movies.
And
Yeah.
speaking of, what's the director's name? Brad Payton.
Uh-huh.
Speaking of Brad Payton, I bet you he was thinking, hey, we're making a movie about earthquakes. So things are going to shake. So our lead actors have to have stuff that can shake.
Okay.
And almost, the funny thing is, almost every character they have, are very busty and they're very good looking. First, there was this, I forgot what the school is. There's all these researchers, young researchers. And I look at them and sure, they're wearing like nerdy clothing, but you can see that behind those clothes are like six-pack abs, and these guys have buffed up here, but you know that they're probably models. And the women are all like very busty. The reporters are very beautiful, and I think they threw in Paul Giamatti just to even out, just to try to balance out the all these beautiful people and bring it down. It's almost like the people that he brought in, or like for model agencies, and the requirements was that they have to be a certain size.
Sure. This is the movies. Yeah, I mean, we need
Yeah,
things to look at, right?
yeah. These other movies, but this one was very like blatant. I'm like, hey, even some guy with glasses. I look at him and my siblings. I watched it with my siblings, and they're like, I know that guy with the glasses is really built, and if you take off his clothes, he has a six-pack ab and pegs.
Right. He spent more time in the gym than at the lab. So.
Yeah. And all the women are very, busty. So during the earthquake, a lot of stuff gets shaken up.
Well, that's we call these special effects movie eye candies. It could be special effects, right? Could be people. That's what these movies are. So.
Yeah, but I mean, regardless of all that, I thought it was it's kind of a good somewhat diversion. And Brad Payton, the action sequences or the disaster sequences are pretty well done. Sometimes they're kind of ridiculous, but you definitely see the money on screen, and you definitely see that they try to up the ante on disaster movies. Like, hey, what else could we do in this scene where we've seen a lot of films where there's a huge tide and the ships are trying to ride it, and then the tide flips them over. But this one ups the ante by Dwayne the Rock Johnson is like driving his boat up this huge tide, and then there's this big, massive cargo ship coming overboard, and then he's swinging past it, and there's all these cargoes falling on him, and he's riding the tide and dodging all these cargo, and you're like, whoa.
Well, that's for the 3D.
Yeah.
That thing is for the 3D. Like I watched a movie by Sway Hawk. It's one of those. I think it's the sequel to what's that movie?
Is it Detective D or Flying Saucer?
Yeah. It's the sequel to Detective D. The first one was good, and then the second one, I watched this, without the benefit of 3D, right? And then you see these things that like
all meant for 3D.
Yeah, it's meant for 3D. You see this like kind of badge on a wall, and it would shake. And come out and say, why are they doing this? And they like these fighters would just throw stuff toward the screen and say, why are they doing this? Like Soy Hawk's better director than that. But then you think about it, no, these scenes are made for 3D, but like you see it without the 3D, then you say, oh, that scene is ridiculous. I mean, it serves no purpose.
Yeah, that's true. Although in this case, I think it's not it's for the 3D. Also, I feel like the director, they definitely want to do more than your average action movie. There are a lot of sequences where they kind of up the ante.
Right.
And that's one of the reasons why I liked about it too. Is most action movies would just be like, oh, let's just have the boat climb up the tide and let's call it a day. But on a lot of these sequences, he brought something extra to it.
All right.
And that's what I like about it. The only thing I don't like about it is, the story is really generic, and there's all these, cardboard characters, and every character seems like they came from some modeling agency, and
Look, but the real star of this movie really, are the special effects.
Yeah,
right?
The special effects are action sequences.
The people there are just to react
eye
to
candy.
special effects.
Yeah, right. React and eye candy.
Right.
That's what I like about it. But at the same time, the Rock not being able to quite hit his notes, and the story is all these characters are pretty much cardboard characters, and that the Rock plays a divorced father, and that the new man that his ex is with is gonna get a horrible end. So there's all these scenes where certain things are gonna happen. So classic 2.5-star movie.
All right. Okay, but in any case, successful Dwayne the Johnson outing, proves that he can lead a movie. Now they can give him a bigger budget to work with.
Yeah.
I mean, we'll be seeing him, and of course he'll be working with is it Marvel or this? No, WB playing Black Adam, or one of the characters in the superhero universe. So.
Okay.
Okay. Any more?
No, I'm good. We can move on.
Okay, let's move on to number 2, Pitch Perfect 2. Made 14.3 million over the weekend. In its third week, and it's made 147.5 million.
Yeah, it's kind of holding up decently well too.
Extremely well, I think, because something that we'll talk about, like Tomorrowland and Mad Max. Those movies, kind of drop below that. But we'll see. These are still estimates. Still, we'll know more once the actuals come in. But right now, this third weekend, number 2, not bad.
Yeah. Speaking of Tomorrowland, wow, 58% drop off at number 3, 13.8 million this week. This is its second weekend. It's made 63 million total so far, but it has a budget of 190 million. So it's not gonna. And it's such a huge drop off, which means for a family film, that's really bad. Usually, family films hold up a lot better.
No, but you said in a previous podcast that like sci-fi movies drop off really huge come the second weekend. So Tomorrowland is kind of a sci-fi movie. And,
but the only difference is this is it's a sci-fi movie, but then there's this family crowd which usually holds up well. So I guess with them together, you would think like maybe 50% drop off, but then it ends up dropping off, like the classic sci-fi movie, which is not very good.
True, but you say that it's a family crowd, and they may want it to be a family crowd, but from the promos I'm seeing, it doesn't look like it's made for the family crowd.
I think it's one of those things that there's bad word of mouth too. The cinema score was pretty low too. I think it was like a B-. The reviews are kind of in the middle. It's like 49% on Rotten Tomatoes. So it's like bad word of mouth, bad reviews, and I think it's kind of catching up to it.
Yeah, that too. But as we said previously, we both saw the promos, right? We both didn't connect to it. We both didn't want to watch it. Even if we want to watch it, it's because of Brad Bird and not because of anything in the movie. It feels kind of distant and cold, and I guess like lots of people are feeling the same way, and that's why you're seeing this $190 million budgeted movie kind of tanking at the box office right now. It's just not connecting.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, it's too bad. It's like Brad Bird's first big dud in a while. It is scary for a future director of animated features who want to cross over to live action films. Because you have, was it Stanley Stanton? Is that his name?
Andrew Stanton.
Yeah, Andrew Stanton, But, Brad Bird did well with Mission Impossible 3. He kind of rejuvenated the franchise. But then he followed that up with Tomorrowland, a really big dud.
Yeah, I guess that goes to the thing that people don't want to launch new properties.
Yeah.
At least high-priced new properties, because it's risky. Like you don't really know.
Yeah.
Like, Brad Bird did well because like with the live action, because it's Mission Impossible with Tom Cruise.
Yeah.
Right. Tomorrowland is really new, even though it has George Clooney in it, right? But it's not exactly him.
Yeah.
He's kind of playing a background character. It's more this teenager, girl going through the land of tomorrow, etc., etc., etc. So it's not like the transition between animation to live action per se is that, hey, it's really expensive. With bombs, people are gonna know about it, and then I mean, there's things that
I could see.
done, right?
I could see why they gave it to him though. He did Mission Impossible 3, which was not only a critical hit, it's also a commercial hit. So I could see why they're like, whoa, he did really well with Mission Impossible 3. Let's give him Tomorrowland. But I guess doing a movie for an existing franchise is a lot easier than doing launching an original expensive movie.
Yes, and it also helps to have Tom Cruise and, action.
Yeah. So let's move on to Mad Max Fury Road at number 4 with 13.6 million. The drop off is actually not too bad, 45% for an action movie, and that's been how much it's been dropping off on a weekly basis, which is pretty good for an action movie. Total is made about 116 million with a budget of 150 million. And the interesting thing with Mad Max is even though Pitch Perfect has been outgrossing it during the weekends, during the weekdays, Mad Max has been doing better. It's been topping the charts on a daily basis, which is kind of interesting because it is developing a following. And I saw last night, and I thought it was great. It's worth the 98% tomato meter rating.
Mm-hmm.
It's very different, very imaginative, and I think the director is definitely on drugs. I think you have to be on drugs to make a movie like this.
But he was
it's like I don't know if he takes drugs, but there's like some movies, like you watch Marvel, you watch all these superhero movies, and you're like, the director's probably clean. And you watch a movie like this where it's just so out there and so imaginative. I'm not supporting taking drugs, but sometimes you feel like, your normal person just can't think of these things without being influenced.
Okay. Disclaimer: we're not claiming anything, so George Miller, don't sue us.
Don't take drugs. Don't take drugs. I'm just saying. But it definitely deserves its 98% on the tomato meter because it looks very different. It's very imaginative. It has very creative action sequences. It's very different from anything that's out there in theaters, especially for mainstream movies. It's kind of wild and crazy and very entertaining.
Right.
And very cinematic. Yeah, definitely worth the 98% on the tomato meter.
All right. Well, the movies in the 2, 3, and 4 slot, they're really close, right?
Yeah, they are. Yeah,
and these are estimates, right? When the actuals come in, they might switch places.
Yeah. I could totally see Mad Max eventually passing Pitch Perfect 2 on the weekly basis, not total on the weekly charts.
But on the weekly basis, I mean, the numbers are lower, right?
Yeah.
But then again, like summer's coming, school's coming out. This movie will find this audience, I think.
Yeah.
With the young teenage boys, who are really the target audience for this. It's losing some theaters, but I think it will stay in the weekend. But I don't know. It won't pass 150, right? I mean, this budget.
It can't get close to it because it has been holding up pretty well for an weighted all action movie. It's been dropping off at around 45%, which is actually very good for a weighted all action movie. Because weighted all films tend to drop off pretty quickly, and action movies tend to drop off pretty quickly. And this is both of them, and it's only dropping off by about 45%, which is not bad. And during the weekdays, it's holding up pretty well.
And overseas, it already made 165 million, so it passed the domestic take already.
Yeah, yep. And the worldwide total is 280. Yeah, so it's going to be a solid hit with great reviews. I'm sure it'll probably do well on video because it looks like this movie has a lot of really strong followers, like these who will probably gobble up the DVD when it comes out. I wonder if George Miller will make more of them.
Well, this is a reboot, and I believe that he has another one planned already. I mean, I think originally it was one movie, and then it was too long, and then he decided to break it up into 2, I think.
Oh, okay, that's good. That's good.
Yeah, so there's another one. Another one will come if he gets the green light.
Okay, yeah, I think he'll get the green light.
Okay, let's move on to number 5, Avengers: Age of Ultron. It made 10.9 million over the weekend, and it has grossed 427 million domestically in its 5th week.
And worldwide is the 1.32 billion. So it's now what number?
It is number
worldwide?
6.
Number 6. All right.
Before it was number 8, it moved 2 spots up to number 6. So it will definitely pass Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows Part 2.
I wonder if I wonder if you'll get to 1.5 though. Now it looks a little bit shaky because it's already open in China, which is by far the biggest overseas market for the film. I'm not sure how much more it can make, and it looks at this current way, it looks like it might get close to Furious 7, but it might not quite get there.
Okay, so it looks like it may not reach 1.5 billion. So we'll keep an eye out.
Yeah, you'll get close to it.
Yeah, all right.
Yeah,
which is still pretty good.
Yeah, it is really good. Yeah,
it is. Let's move on to number 6, Aloha, the Cameron Crowe romance movie. It made about 10 million.
What figure did we put it at?
We had it around 10 to 15. So it's about
it came in on the lower end of it.
Yeah.
No, and the reviews have been awful. 18% on Rotten Tomatoes. With all those A-listers, with an ensemble cast, and a director, who's known for directing better movies.
Well, sometimes people go wrong. It's more like one of these passion projects that people want to sign up on, because of the director and who's involved, right? And
And Amy Pascal was actually right on this one. She was complaining a lot about this movie.
Yeah, that's true. Like his 2005 movie Elizabethtown, it got a 28%, so it's not exactly great, right?
Right.
On the other hand, most of his movies are pretty good.
So once in a while, he'll hit one of these. It seems like it's either good or really bad with Cameron Crowe.
Yeah, but as we say, it doesn't look that great to us, and the reviews prove. A lot of critics agree with this. Has a B- cinema score, and a 10 million take at the box office isn't exactly a ringing endorsement of the movie. The people feel the same, and it's in over 2,000 theaters, like almost 3,000.
I wonder how China will react to this, because Emma Stone plays a mixed person with a. She's like a quarter Chinese and a quarter Hawaiian or something.
You know what? I don't think
her name is Allison Ne.
Yeah, I don't think they're gonna play that up. They don't care,
Well, I wonder why they would do. If they weren't going for the Chinese market, why they would name Emma Stone Allison Ne.
Here's what happened. Okay, Cameron Crowe had a certain story in mind, right? He wrote the characters without casting the movie first, right? And then when it comes time to casting, right? Maybe someone from the studio said, "Hey, we need a actress who can sell."
Right.
Instead of someone who can fit the last name, right?
Yeah, right.
Yeah, so that's how Emma Stone ends up playing a quarter Chinese, even though she's blonde and as white as anything that you've ever seen.
Yeah. So that's your theory, right?
That's my theory. I'm gonna stick with it. Okay.
Right. I could see that. I read an article from, I think, I forgot, Hollywood Reporter. I forgot which source. I apologize if I got the source wrong, but that person analyzed all the Sony emails, and there's no single mention of, hey, you have Emma Stone playing a Chinese woman.
Right.
Even though Amy Pascal was making all these comments on the film and disproving this and she disapproves of a lot of things, but not a single mention of having a Caucasian woman play a Chinese woman.
Yeah. Well, let's put it this way: if there's a movie about me, I'm gonna be played by a white guy. That's how it is.
That's true. That's your last name too. You'll be played by Brad Pitt.
He'll be too old.
All right.
I gotta get someone younger.
Right.
Okay. All right. Yeah. So Cameron Crowe, latest stud.
Yeah, I guess it's just Bradley Cooper is just he's got to stay away from romances.
Yeah. Well, no. It just depends on the movie, right? This one just odd.
Yeah, but then there's also the one.
It's an oddball of a romance.
There's also the one he did with Jennifer Lawrence. That period piece.
Oh yeah, Serena. Yeah, that one.
Yeah, okay. That one they didn't even want to release it in theaters.
Right, right. That movie officially does not exist.
And Bradley Cooper, as his wish, Aloha wouldn't exist either.
Yeah, yeah. Well, who knows? Well, anyway, Bradley Cooper will be fine. This I think this is just a movie that he just wants to work. He sign on to work with all the other actors. Obviously, Cameron Crowe would want him because he can headline a movie, and unfortunately, it didn't do well.
Yeah, sometimes you bring a bunch of talented people together and you turn out with crud.
All right.
All right, let's move on to number 7.
Okay,
Poltergeist, with 7.8 million. It has the usual drop off for horror films, 65%, which is kind of normal for horror films. After 2 weeks, it's made 38 million. It's going to make money, but then it's just going to be one of those movies that is kind of just there.
Yeah, Poltergeist, as you alluded to last week, is a horror movie that's trying to take advantage of the, I guess, horror movie renaissance started by Michael Bay. He produced some horror movies and like
remaking horror movies, remaking old horror classics.
Right. Yeah. And Poltergeist is one that was originally made by Steven Spielberg, directed by Steven Spielberg, right? Mm-hmm. And they remade this one and hoping that it'll make a lot of money for them.
Wait, did Steven Spielberg direct the first one, or did he just produce?
Let me check on that, okay? Just to make sure. Poltergeist. No, then he wrote the screenplay.
Oh, he wrote the screenplay.
Yeah, so Toby Hooper directed it. So he's just one of the directors. I was wrong, okay, but Steven Spielberg was involved.
But still, it's just kind of there, not as big of a splash as the Michael Bay productions.
What's missing from Poltergeist, and that's included in the Michael Bay productions, are hot young things.
Yeah, like those that we see in San Andreas.
Yes, all those models went to work for San Andreas and
leaving none left.
And weren't available for Poltergeist.
Right. Okay. Right. Let's move on to number 8. Fall from the Madding Crowd at 1.4 million. One of those indie movies that's gotten a wide release. After 5 weeks, it's kind of a platform release. It's already made 8.4 million. The reviews have been pretty good, 85% on Rotten Tomatoes. So kind of I guess with indie movies, 8.4 million isn't, and it looks like it'll eventually make over 10 million. I guess it's not bad for an indie film.
Yeah, I don't really have anything more to say about this movie, which haven't been said. It's just an indie movie that's just like filling up the top 10 spot.
Right.
So
Speaking of not having much to say, number 9 is Hot Pursuit at 1.4 million, dropping off really fast, 62%, and it's made 32.4 million after 4 weeks of release with a budget of 35 million. You can't say it's a bomb since the budget is relatively low. It's just kind of disappointing, right, for a Reese Witherspoon movie.
Yeah, Reese Witherspoon just came out of an award-winning movie called Wild, right?
Right.
You think it would perform better, but then people are going to Pitch Perfect 2 instead, and in its 4th weekend, experiencing a 62% drop is huge.
Yeah.
That means it's falling really fast.
Yeah, well, let's hope Reese Witherspoon picks better. Wait, was Hot Pursuit one of her passion projects? I guess sometimes it just doesn't work out.
I don't know if it's a passion project. I think it's like she is a producer now, so she's going to find projects to work on that she can star in, and she can, work behind the camera as well as in front of the camera. So this is one of those projects, and sometimes they work and sometimes they don't. I mean, I think this is one of the projects which she feels that she has a connection to. She would like to do it, and sometimes it just doesn't work out.
Right. Yep. All right, let's move on to number 10, Home, which has been on the top 10 for the last 10 weeks. At 1.2 million. After 10 weeks of release, it's made 170 million with a budget of 135 million. It's kind of hanging in there on the top 10. Worldwide is at 330 63 million, which is pretty good.
Yeah, it's kind of disappointing that it didn't reach 200 million. Then that it would be a certified hit, right? But 170 is still, kind of low. Even though it's successful for DreamWorks.
I mean, it's definitely not as high as during DreamWorks heydays with the Shrek movies and the Madagascar movies, but it's kind of in line with the Kung Fu Panda and How to Train Your Dragon franchises. I mean, when you look at the last 2 or 3 films, is pretty good. Like Turbo or Penguins of Madagascar, both of which only made like about 80 million at the domestic box office. So I guess in relative to those films, it's done really well. Or even Mr. Peabody and Sherman, which only ended up making about 100 million. So this at least gets them back to the Kung Fu Panda, How to Train Your Dragon level. It might not be at the Madagascar or the Shrek films, but hey, for a struggling animation studio, 170 million is not bad.
Right, as long as they don't have bad news for the shareholders, they're fine.
Yeah, right. They're like, hey, we have a movie that passed 100 million.
Right. We don't have to write down anything this quarter.
Yeah, right. And because it's a hit, we're gonna have Home 2, Home 3, and spin-offs.
Right. All right.
I guess let's talk about Furious 7. It made 349 million domestically, and the worldwide figure is at 1.5 billion. It doesn't look like it's going to get to 1.52 billion to pass the first Avengers movie to be the top 3.
Wait. Hold on. What? There's still a chance. There's still a
chance.
They are going to re-release Furious 7 when Furious 8 comes out, and that total is going to be added.
I see.
Then it will cross it.
Right. But what's gonna? How are they gonna pitch it though?
It's just like what they did.
It's already in 3D because how they.
Yeah. No. It's just like how they did with the Avengers movie. They're gonna have a kind of marathon showing. They're gonna show Avengers 1, and then afterward they're gonna show Age of Ultron. It's just like with the Fierce movies that they're gonna show Fierce 7 first, and then they're gonna show Fierce 8.
Yeah, that's true.
It's just for people to catch up. After.
I wonder if they will re-release it again during the summer. Add some theaters and do another big marketing push to try to push it, squeeze out another. It's like they only need about 14 million.
Well, I don't know. Like right now, like theaters, it'll take up space from other of their movies, right? So who knows?
Yeah, but you've seen theaters, you've seen studios do it before, where their movies have dropped out of the top 10, and they do another big marketing push and add like a couple more million, just so they can say, oh yeah, our movie made over 100 million.
Right, but I don't think Fierce 7 has any problem with that, But I expect they're gonna do another showing before Fierce 8 comes out, and yeah, it's gonna push it over.
Yeah, could happen. Okay, should we move on to the opening movies?
Okay, yeah, let's go to the opening movies. We're gonna have 3 this week.
Okay.
Entourage will be open on June 3rd. That's a Wednesday. That is the TV movie on, actually the TV show on one of those cable channels, right? And then we have Insidious Chapter 3 and Spy.
Is Insidious Chapter 3 directed by James Wan, or did they pick
No, it's directed by the longtime writer, Leigh Whannell.
Okay.
So which one you want to talk first?
Let's go with Spy.
All right. Okay. Spy is the comedy by Paul Feig. Stars Melissa McCarthy, Jaden Statham, Jude Law, Rose Byrne, Allison Janney, etc. 50 Cents even in there.
Right. Basically, sort of the from the Bridesmaid alumni club.
Yeah, right? It's pretty much Paul Feig and Melissa McCarthy, like 2 very bankable comedy filmmakers working today. Spy is a kind of like a spoof, a stand-up of like the spy genre, the Mission Impossible movies, the James Bond movies,
Right.
Even Jason Statham movies.
Yeah, right. Yeah, yep. And I think they pair her up with the right stars because Jason Statham. I think this is kind of the white role for Jason Statham. He's became almost a stereotype of himself. He plays this kind of role really well, and he's going direct to video. And I think for him as a supporting character, it works really well. Same with Jude Law. I think the casting's great.
Yeah, it's like Jason Statham is sort of playing against type, really, right? Even though he's playing the same character, except right now he gets to kind of hang loose. It's actually a comedy. It's not a serious movie, right? And Jude Law, I don't know what he's doing in the movie, but as one of those actors which usually do more better fare.
He's the woman appeal, but I guess you can say that about Jason Statham too. But Jason Statham is like the badass, and Jude Law is like this James Bond, suave character.
Right, but you usually associate Jude Law with like award-winning material, right? But
yeah.
This is a movie where I guess he just wants to be in a comedy.
Yeah. Well, sometimes he's in these mainstream movies. He kind of alternates. But I thought this is the casting's great. They pair Melissa McCarthy up with a solid ensemble cast, and the early reviews on Rotten Tomatoes are very good. They have 33 reviews so far, and it's getting 94%.
Again, this movie is not really new, right? It's just like they just put a female coat on the tried and true action comedy.
Right.
Before you would probably see like who's that guy? Eddie Murphy, right? Eddie Murphy would be in something like this.
Yeah, right.
Or Mr. Bean or something like that. Just like characters who more like fish out of water characters. Suddenly throw in a role they're not suited for, and play that up for laughs.
Like the Rush Hour movies.
Yeah.
And this one looks like so far it looks like it's one of the the successful ones.
Right, because they actually you have some funny people writing and acting in the movie.
You have a good script and you have good casting.
Right.
All right. So what are you gonna put the figure at?
Let's see. Wow. I think it's gonna do 35 to 40 because the movie competes directly with Pitch Perfect 2. It's a comedy, and like I say, actually, Melissa McCarthy is the type of comedy that the young people are into.
I'm not. I think it has a wider appeal. It will be appealing to teens, but it will also appeal to guys because of Jason Statham.
Oh yeah. I'm just saying, like if you like Pitch Perfect 2,
because Pitch Perfect 2 is mainly like teenage girls, whereas this one is more like a guy's movie and a woman's movie. Because you have Melissa McCarthy, she'll get all the women, and guys think she's funny too, and you have Jason Statham, who's will bring in all the action fans, and so it's an action comedy.
Right. So what you're saying is a merging between Max Fury Road and Aloha. What you get a spy.
Right. So I think the demographics are a little bit different, but yeah, I'm kind of in the 35 to 40 million range too. But I wouldn't be surprised if it does better.
Yeah, I would say it could do better, but hey, there are other movies coming out as well, so that's why I'm putting it in the 35 to 40 range.
Yeah, me too. Yeah,
in addition to the holdovers.
That's true. Because there's Entourage.
Right. If it's opening by itself, I think I would probably do it at 50. Who knows, right? But there's like other consideration to take into, right?
Right.
But and then Paul Feig and Melissa McCarthy, like I say, two very bankable comedy stars. All their movies pretty much.
They've been steady. Their films have gross in the 30 million range. Say So it's been good.
Right, and
it's
this
around that range,
Right, and like Spy also has the male elements, right? It's not just a female comedy, right? It's also a guy comedy.
Yeah. All right. Let's move on to Entourage.
Entourage.
I don't know. I haven't seen the show, so I don't. But apparently, it's a very popular show, and the trailer looks funny. I don't know where to put it. I'm kind of putting it at the 15 to 20 million range.
Ooh, 15 to 20 million range. It's kind of low to me. Mainly because this sort of competes. It's also a comedy and it's based on a popular shows, even though it has been out of TV for a while, a couple of years. But it has some name actors, I guess, like people. In addition to the cast, right? You have Mark Wahlberg, Ronda Rousey, the MMA fighter. And others. And 15 to 20 is low, but I think I'm gonna do I'm gonna do 30 to 35.
Whoa, you're gonna be that high?
I'm gonna be that high.
Wow. I'm kind of in the 15 to 20 million range. I'm more like 15. I'll stick with 15.
Yeah, mainly because like if it's 15, it's kind of low for a movie with such awareness.
Yeah, you could be right though. We'll see next week.
Right. So I'm gonna go with 30 to 35, probably on a lower range of that. Spies, I think it's gonna take the bulk of the business, 35 to 40. Right, and then we have Insidious Chapter 3.
Yeah, this will be interesting because the second Insidious opened really well. I think it opened to like 35 million or something. Whereas the first Insidious was kind of it's a film that made money gradually. It didn't have a huge opening. And both of the Insidious movies have been well reviewed. But James Wan is no longer directing it, so I wonder how that's going to affect the third film. These horror films that have been started by him have done really well. Even even the spin-off of the Conjuring, what was it?
Annabelle?
Yeah, Annabelle opened to like 35 million or something like that. So, and I think one of the reasons why I think Entourage will be I'm a little bit low is I want to think Insidious will open in the 30 million range. And I can't see all three films opening in the 30 million range.
Right. Okay. I'm gonna give you a reason why. Okay. Number one, it's not directed by James Wan. Right. The movie no longer stars Patrick Wilson and Rose Byrne. Right.
Oh, okay.
So it's gonna be a new. The Insidious Chapter 3 is actually a prequel.
Oh, okay. All right.
So yeah. So the story.
It's basically a film that they made to milk the franchise, even though all the original people who were involved didn't want to do it anymore.
Well, yeah.
So this is more of a studio, like, hey, let's crank another one out.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah.
And to give the writer a chance to direct.
Ah, okay, right. And they entice the writer, like, hey, you get to direct, come back,
Yeah, she's also stars in the movie as well, so she has a part. So.
Oh, she also stars. Oh, okay. Wow. Yeah. Okay. All right. So
that's why I'm saying it might not make as much as the previous two movies for those reasons.
But you know what? No one knows that.
Well, they're gonna see. Hey, those people looks different.
True. Right. Okay. So in that case, I'll go about 25 million for Insidious Chapter 3.
Oh, 25. Yeah, I'm gonna go in the 20 to 20 range too. 20 to 25 range.
So we have Spy. We both agree on Spy, 35 to 40 million range. Entourage, we disagree. I'm thinking 15 million. You're thinking 30 million, 35?
Yeah, Entourage, I'm thinking 30 to 35.
Okay. And Insidious Chapter 3, we agree that it's going to be, I'm pegging it at, we're pegging it at 20 to 25.
Okay. And the thing about Insidious Chapter 3 is I wouldn't be surprised if it opened lower.
Ah, okay.
That's the thing.
Yeah, okay. I see.
So that's where all the number fits in. Is like if any movie's gonna get squeezed, it's gonna be Insidious Chapter 3.
Yeah, I wonder if people will know about this though, because I'm thinking the paranormal movies, like Paranormal 1 through 3, all did really well. All open to like 40 million plus openings, but the fourth Paranormal didn't do really well because it broke apart from the first three in terms of the storyline. Whereas Insidious, this is the third one. I wonder if franchise fatigue has settled in yet. This is kind of like Paranormal 4, where it's where the originals that were involved are gone, and it's kind of a different, almost more of a a prequel sequel, more of a prequel / spin-off. type movie.
You know what? I think people in the horror genre, I think they're pretty much they know their stuff. You know, I'm sure they know who directed it, who stars in it, and what the movie's about.
Okay.
You know, because it is kind of like a niche genre.
So you're on the lower end, although because it's only chapter 3, I wouldn't be surprised if he performs in the upper end. So we'll see who's right.
All right, then that's
wow. You made it through without coughing, or
we made it through. Yeah, maybe I'm not as sick as I feel.
Yeah. I guess the Rock just charged you up too. You throw the Rock in something?
Yeah. Well, speaking of the Rock, then we're gonna have sent Andreas a second weekend too. Like that's gonna do what 20, 30? So you know, there's gonna be a lot of money involved, and who knows which movie will be left out.
Yeah,
will underperform. Maybe it's like more from Tomorrowland, more from Pitch Perfect, you know, more from Mad Max. Like those are the movies that's actually gonna be making less. So
yeah, it could be. Although I think Pitch Perfect 2 might take a bigger hit, mainly because Spy and Entourage are both comedies, even though they're both targeting a slightly older crowd.
Mm-hmm. Well, Entourage is rated R, I believe. So
yeah, so it's definitely an older crowd, right?
Yeah.
All right, we'll see you next week.
Okay, then we'll come back next week and see how we did.
All right. Okay, see you guys next week.